If you're looking to enhance your financial literacy math program in elementary or high school education, we're going to highlight the top 10 board games that you can integrate into your classroom right now. This is Legendary Tactics. We're in a unique position in that one of us teaches elementary school, another teaches high school, and the third content creator here at Legendary Tactics is a financial advisor. So today, we're bringing these areas together because there's been a renewed focus on financial literacy in our curriculum. I'm here with Flash to rank the best board games that students can grasp quickly and, more importantly, learn financial literacy from. Hey, Flash.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, really excited to walk through these games. So we sort of decided it might be best to actually break this down by panel. So we're going to look at the elementary panel first.
Excellent. Yeah, so there's lots of great games that you can use with students, but I would be cautious at the elementary level that you don't throw something at them that's way too complicated and way more than they need. So my number 5 game for this is one called Cash Flow for Kids. And in this, you have a goal to get out of the rat race, and you go around the board and you're collecting assets and liabilities. And so some of those concepts the teacher will need to teach. And I would argue that for any board game that's being used in a classroom, it's not the board game itself that's doing the teaching. It's just another tool like a book or like a workbook or an assignment. The assignment doesn't teach so much as the teacher does. So in Cash Flow for Kids, there are lots of tough decisions that need to be made, and a lot of the decisions are ones that adults fail at every day. So I think you're also teaching your kids some, life lessons with this game.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Actually, when I see the words asset and liability, right away I'm thinking accounting, which would come down in the high school end of things. But it's a great concept to lay down the framework early and have those basic building blocks there.
You're right, because I think these kids, they see decisions being made like, should I buy a new boat or invest for retirement? And the game actually teaches the difference between assets and liabilities and then helps them with their financial decision making.
That's awesome. That's also a great number 5 game. So what's your number 4?
Number 4 is Payday. So this is actually a really old game from Hasbro, but sometimes those old games, they stick around for a reason. So in this one, you learn how to budget and you manage your finances on a monthly basis. You're paying loans, bills, expenses, and cash windfalls. So one problem, I mean, you're an elementary teacher, but do you think kids would have an interest in doing that? Or how could a teacher make paying bills and loans and expenses interesting? What technique would you use?
I think, like you said earlier with Cash Flow for Kids, it's all in how you as the teacher frame it, I think. And if you frame it to them and present it to them in a way that's kind of enticing and appealing, it won't take much for them to jump on the bandwagon.
Right. So yeah, with this one, I think it's a solid game for budgeting basics and teaching kids to make monthly savings and build emergency funds. But I would never pitch it to kids that way. Instead, I would say, okay, here are the things that you can buy and make it a Nintendo Switch and make it a PlayStation 5 and all of those things, so that you're using an area of interest that might catch their attention, and you're secretly teaching them these lessons. And
you're using an old game and using modern day enticements for them, which would be greatly appealing. So that's awesome. That's great.
Absolutely. So let's move on to number 3 now. This is one, it's very punny. It's called Act Your Wage.
Oh, wah, wah.
Terrible. It's a very family-friendly game. But Dave Ramsey, he's a real celebrity in the financial world. Most financial planners out there get really excited when they hear the name Dave Ramsey. But this game teaches 7 money principles for debt freedom. It's a good beginner game that teaches some bits of financial wisdom as you play.
Oh, very cool. Okay, so again, we're looking at different money principles and debt freedom, which everyone from young to old alike want to be out of debt. So that's great.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of games that use math, but this one was actually designed as a financial teaching tool by Dave Ramsey. So I think with that intention in mind,
it's very tailored then, eh?
It is. It's very specifically. It's exactly what people trying to teach financial literacy will be wanting to do. So.
Excellent. Now, this number 2, I have to admit, is one of my personal favorites as a kid. I still remember it, and I love it, and I will let you introduce it.
Well, it's a really light game. Probably everyone who's listening to this video has played it. It's the Game of Life, and it's surprisingly still fun, and it's one I've rediscovered recently with my own kids, and it introduces them to financial decisions and career paths and educational impacts on income. Also slightly more complex ideas like the cost of compound interest and loan payments and the effects of losing a job or having children, and of course taxes, debt, overspending on net worth. So what do you like about this game?
I love the wheel. I'm not going to lie. When I was a kid, I loved that spinny wheel. That was awesome. And the cars that went around and you could put boys or girls in it, pink or blue, right? So that was very, very 80s and very awesome at the time. So lots of fun.
I think the reason this one's number 2 is because some of the other ones, they're good games, but they might not hook kids as much. And as you say, the tactile component with the spinny wheel is going to get kids just to like it immediately for its aesthetics.
Oh, on the elementary panel, they will be on board, right away. In fact, I've still seen this game around. To be honest, it's not gone by any means, and you can probably pick it up at most thrift stores if you look hard enough. So
really cheap for the thrifty educators.
And actually, there's a lot of even higher level concepts in this game as well if you choose to sort of focus on that. So it's not necessarily even a game that you would want to rule out for the higher elementary.
Right.
Grade 7s and 8s, if you're going to get into things like compound interest and loan payments and those kind of things. So that's there's a lot of meat there if you choose to sort of, but like you said earlier, you have to be as the teacher or the one directing the student learning towards those particular concepts.
That's right. So you can step up all of the padding around the game too. I mean, when you're teaching to kids, you can have them reading the rule book, and so you can get some literacy in there as well too. And I would actually, as an English teacher, at the end of the game, I would have them write down the story of what happened to their family throughout, and there can be some fun tie-ins to English.
Oh,
as
narrative
well
writing. Narrative writing is a big thing in elementary as well, so that's awesome.
Yeah. So that one is a hybrid, and some people might laugh at the thought of having Game of Life on there, but I think there can be some value for that one. So,
excellent.
We should move to number one.
And the number one, I have to be honest with you, is a personal favorite of mine, and I still love it to this day, even though it's rather simple. It's a lot of fun.
Well, in this one, I'm going to justify it before I say which one it is, but we had some debate at Legendary Tactics about this because it is a fairly light game, and it's not entirely realistic to the real world. However, when we asked our onboard Legendary Tactics financial advisor, he said, yes, absolutely for kids. It teaches some of the basics. The game is Stock Ticker. So for younger,
hooray! So you could clearly see who was promoting it rather heavily in our staff meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was hesitant on this one, but then I ended up putting it first on elementary list because you guys brought me around on it. But the game's easy to learn. It teaches the basic concepts of investing, paying out dividends, and stock market volatility. It's really simple. Kids will need to figure out when to buy and when to sell and how to manage the cash flow. And like the real world, you don't want to buy when the stock is high. You need to buy it low. And my only criticism of this game is that there's a lot of die rolling, and you can't really tell when, like, there's not as much strategy, which, as you argue, actually is more parallel to the real world where stock markets are completely unpredictable.
Yes. Markets go up and down, and you never know, right? So,
absolutely. So that's good. Shall we shift to high school games?
Yeah, so I thought we'd just take a quick changing here of direction, and let's look at the higher level students, 9 to 12, and games that obviously will be a little higher level in the financial literacy and a little more depth to the game as well. So what games do you figure would be more successful in a high school level?
Well, I'm going to actually pull one out that's a little more recent, and this one has a beautiful skin on it, and thematically, I think the game works really well. It's Brass Birmingham, and it's an economic strategy game. It's one of the top games on Board Game Geek. There's actually a digital app out there, so some kids will have probably played this and can teach each other. But the game includes debt management, entrepreneurship, capitalism, networking, economic development, infrastructure building, and with this game, I find it's really easy to forget that you're actually doing math all the while.
Oh, and that is a huge conceptual idea in math right now, is the fact that you're learning it without even knowing you're learning it, which is brilliant.
That's right. And again, on its own, the game probably doesn't teach. This is why it's number 5. It doesn't teach those concepts necessarily. That's where the teacher needs to contextualize all of that and discuss what's happening in the game. So, and you can sneak all of that in without students feeling like you're overwhelming them with those concepts.
Now, quick question: Brass Birmingham seems a little heavy on the rules end and on the actual gameplay. Do you have would you, being the high school expert, do you think the students can get their heads around it, around the mechanics and gameplay?
I think it's going to require a teacher who's passionate about it and a teacher who knows how to teach the kids. If you can even get one kid who's excited and interested, then that kid will be able to teach all of the rest of them. And sometimes when I've delivered games in the classroom, I'll have one group playing one game and another playing a different game. And so they can kind of cycle through. So the kids who really have the passion for it can then carry that passion into another group. So
okay, very good. Okay, so it can totally work as it sounds like a snowball effect is what you want to try and get going.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right that this one is a little more complex, a little deeper than typical games that kids would have played. But I like to challenge them, so I think that's good.
Sure, why not? Push them. Yeah. What's number 4?
Number 4 is Monopoly. So we couldn't have a list of financial literacy games and not have Monopoly on here. Everyone knows this game. It's a really good entry point to financial games for older kids. It's not as well suited to elementary, and the reason I didn't include it on that list is because younger kids aren't as inclined to take total and utter destruction well. Because have you ever had that experience where you have everything taken away from you?
You land on the hotel,
yeah,
and you are mortgaged to the hilt already. Yes,
and you lose the works, and you just end up completely I mean, it's Monopoly. That's the name of the game. So it teaches basic money management, building financial infrastructure, and working through negotiations and basic calculations. And also, it starts to get kids thinking about rent and renting out spaces that way, which are some decisions that they will have to make when they get into the world.
And I would be absolutely remiss if I did not add here that, as NATO says so eloquently, Monopoly, when played correctly, can be played in under 20 minutes. So don't be turned off by the fact that, Monopoly takes 3 hours. No. According to NATO, when you play by the correct rules, it is a 20-minute game.
And so many people misplay that game, but we won't dwell on that.
No. We'll move on. Number 3.
Number 3, okay, so Stockpile. This is a game that I actually found, we went to Gen Con back in 2015, and Stockpile, I would say, is a little more elegant version of Stock Ticker. And this one, it's one of the newer games on the list. It's an economic board game that focuses on buying low and selling high. One game mechanic that you have in there is that investors are getting some inside information about what direction stocks will be taking. And yes, you would probably want to teach your kids that insider trading is completely illegal. And
but very good point.
But the game itself uses that mechanic so that there's a little bit of information that guides your decision. So each player has a little bit different information in the game. So it involves bidding, money management. You have to diversify your portfolio if you want a winning strategy. There's lots of player interaction. There's some concepts like stock splits and majority shareholders. So as I say, it's a more elegant version of Stock Ticker, and it's a fun game, and it's got lots of depth.
It does sound a lot like Stock Ticker, but on a deeper level, which is perfect for the high school end. That's awesome.
That's right. I wouldn't play that one at elementary, but
would it just be a little over their head, like a little too hard over their heads? Yes.
Yeah, just if they haven't played a lot of board games, then the mechanics of the game, I think, would flummox them.
Okay, very good. Number 2.
Number 2 actually comes from Robert Kiyosaki. Have you heard of him?
Vaguely.
Yes, he wrote the famous book Rich Dad, Poor Dad and a series of sequels. So great read, actually. I really enjoy those. So the game is called Cash Flow. And he's another financial planner, advisor, writer who designed this game specifically to teach people about finances. So this one's free. It's an online game. And I know all educators out there want to hear, yes, free game. Online is good. And it teaches them how to invest. So
very good.
As you can imagine, players are buying and selling stocks, and they're investing in real estate for capital gains or cash flow. And I think the best part of this game is that you don't actually have to spend real money to learn about how to lose or gain money.
That's a very good point. All right, well played. And our number 1 game.
Okay, so I am so biased because I absolutely love this game. I've loved it from the first time I've played it, and I think it really holds up. Number 1 is Acquire. This is an ancient game, and we've played it a number of times together. But
excellent game.
I think it's really fun. It also teaches the right way to invest. buy low, sell high. So the game is a little bit counterintuitive, and that's where I think this game shines, because you need to buy businesses before they grow, and then they're going to merge, like hotel chains are merging, and then you sell once they become valuable. And a lot of people have this idea, that the difficult connection, that, you know, like they're like, well, I want the expensive hotel, and the way to get the expensive hotel is to not buy in when it's expensive. And it's such a fundamental lesson. But I mean, there's basic money management in it too. You need to know when to invest and how to invest. It's probably a little simpler than the other games, but as I say, it's very counterintuitive.
The neat thing I like about this is the 2-for-1 stock splits as well. So when they merge, you can trade two of your lower, the hotel that merged into the bigger, 2-to-1 in stocks to earn. So it's investing the stocks you have into stocks that you're hoping potentially become even more valuable.
Absolutely. So those are my top 5 for high school.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Flash, for walking us through those games today. We hope that you've gained some insight into some ideas for board games in your financial literacy math classroom. And this has been Cax and Flash, and thanks for watching.
Don't forget to subscribe and like. We'd love to see you back here sometime.